Welcome to Dublin. Those of you who aren't from Dublin, Sol, welcome to Dublin. How are you finding the city so far?
Good afternoon, everybody. But I'm not from Dublin, but my heart's in Dublin.
You know how to play a crowd.
Definitely last night, anyway. Appeared, and you know the rest is history. But for me going into the club, it was difficult because I came injured as well. So I had to kind of fight for my space, my spot, and I didn't mind that. It took a little bit of time, but you know halfway through the season I got going. But to be in that type of environment for me is second to none, really. I just, you know, you as I said, you know, I remember Dennis Burkham in his book, he said, look, Sol, playing against Sol every week pushes me, and I'm saying, God, he was pushing me as well. Yeah. And that's the key to get better as a footballer, to surround yourself with good guys who are hard as nails and skillful in their own skill set. Yeah. And everybody's on the same level, everyone's on the same page, and everybody wants to win. Yeah. And nobody's being kind of bragging about it. Everyone's doing extra after training, and they're wonderful players. Yeah. Those players didn't have to do extra training, but they're all out doing extra training. Yeah.
I mean, can you just expand a little bit on what that mentality was and what the difference was between the mentality at Spurs and Arsenal when you came in? We all hear about players being winners and all that kind of stuff, but to go a little bit deeper into that, I mean, how does it manifest itself in training or in the dressing room, or in particular maybe after a bad result? How does that mentality show itself and have an impact on you and the players and the team?
First of all, it's like how they carry themselves. You know, walking around the training ground, how they carry themselves at the hotels, in between the games and things like that. That shows what people are like, you know, for me. And then going onto the pitch, it follows them onto the pitch. I never had that. There was probably a few players in my time who had that at Tottenham. But you know, when you get to a club that has 14, 15 players like that, that's when you know you're going to win something. You're more likely to win something on a consistent level when you've got guys who are off the pitch doing the right things, and then when they get on the pitch, they're definitely doing the right things. And that's what I wanted to be around, and you know, I made the right choice in that sense, just to be around that mentality, that winning mentality. And the guys, and not always, you learn a lot when you lose, and how you recover. And these guys had that mental strength to kind of, you know, football games hurt them when they lost. It hurt them big time, and they wanted to win, and they knew you can't win all the time. But when they did lose, it wasn't like you know, rolling up and saying, you know, the whole world's going to come in and you know, you're going to crash to hell. But it wasn't that bad. But they knew that they had something inside them to dig themselves out and say, we are better than this. And we've got the skill, we've got, you know, maybe it was a bit off on that day, but we're back together and let's go for it again. And that mentality, you know, spreads. And even if players come in and haven't got that mentality, they get that mentality within a year, being surrounded by those type of players. And that's why we're so successful, because whoever came in, you know, went up to another level. Not everybody, but, yeah, you know, it was fantastic.
And the first season you were at the club was a hugely successful one, obviously, winning the double.
The double,
yeah. I believe there's a song involving you in the double, I'm not 100% sure. But, you know, to achieve that in your first season must have been hugely satisfying, because there was all the histrionics that came with the move, but at the end of the season you're able to point to not one trophy, but 2 trophies, as a total justification for the decision that you made.
You know, I know you guys, you know, like to talk. It's nearly 20 years ago, this situation, but I know it's etched in a lot of people's memories. But for me, I you don't realise, you know, being in London at that time was just a hotbed. It was, you know, it was tough. It was nasty. It was horrible. You had people from different backgrounds getting involved. Had MPs getting involved and talking on Sir David Frost about my move and he's not doing too well. And then David Frost is obviously passed away. He's a massive Arsenal fan, so he's doing okay. I've been on the show a couple of times, so it's quite nice. He's a lovely man. He was a lovely man. But so it was tough. Everything against me, but I had the players, my teammates, the management, Arsenal, all behind me. And there was moments when I doubted myself. So what am I doing here? You know, it's the pressure, the intensity every day. Every single mistake is magnified to another level. And I was looking at other players making 10 mistakes and no one was saying anything about them. And I was making a tiny mistake and it was like the end is nigh kind of thing situation. So I had to deal with that. It was a tough season, but I got through it. I had to win, and thank God I won, because it would have been a travesty for me not to win anything. But for me, it kind of stuck a finger up, A lot of people's kind of, there's kids here, so I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, I think we all know where the finger
But
was.
for me, it was vindication, satisfaction to the highest level to win the double, definitely the league anyway.
Yeah.
In my first season, and it really did kind of, appease and everything kind of went back, not back to normal, but people had to kind of appreciate that under that amount of pressure, he still won.
Yeah. It was an amazing season, and at that time Arsenal had a very intense rivalry with Manchester United. And I'm curious, before I ask you which one of them you hated the most, what's that like to be involved in? Because you talk about coming to a new club and the pressure of that, or the demand to step up a level. That's part of it. But when you've got a rival like Manchester United, who, as much as we all hated them at the time, were a really great team, is that something else that sort of consolidates you as a unit, as a team, and pushes you to do better?
Yeah, and they would say the same thing. They wanted to get pushed as well. The rivalry, it goes so deep. I remember we were we were going well in the Champions League and FA Cup and things like that. And I remember, we got knocked out by Man United in the FA Cup, and a lot of and then I had to go up to Manchester for something. It was, I'm not too sure, a game or a charity or something like that. And I remember just talking to one of the fans, one of my, I can't remember which Man United player, but one of the family members, and she was saying, I'm so glad you didn't win the treble, because you're going to copy us and things like that. It's amazing how it just goes so deep, the rivalry in a professional way, but also in a sneaky way, probably, they don't want anyone winning the treble.
Yeah.
But the rivalry between the teams at that time was intense, and I think that's what football needs. I think that's what football needs, and I think that's what players need, that intense rivalry. You need someone pushing you, just like you need someone in your team pushing you, and the competition for places in the team. Other teams need pushing. Manchester City now, they need 2-3 teams pushing them.
Yeah.
We don't really want them kind of sailing away again with the league. Hopefully Arsenal's up there as well. That rivalry through Alex Ferguson, he built magnificent teams. So you need that, and I think sometimes it went for us, sometimes it went for them.
Do you look back on it with? Do you bear any kind of grudges or anything like that? When you play against certain players and things don't go your way. At the time when you're at the height of that rivalry, you might think, this guy, But in time, has it mellowed out?
Yeah, it's mellowed out. I played with a lot of the Man United guys at youth level, under 18s. So I know a lot of them. They're good guys. They're just competitive. They love their club. And they're very competitive guys, good guys, and I didn't really agree with how some of the guys how they think, but I respected the guys, and it mellows out. I think for me, for England that situation between Arsenal and Man United wasn't the problem. It was the problem between Liverpool and Man United mellowing out, and that's why I think England really suffered. It took far too long to kind of normalise and just be together as England. But that's another situation anyway. But no, it mellows out like in time.
Yeah.
Time. Well, I'm not going to be going at dinner, but I recently met Scholesy. I was in Kuala Lumpur. I was doing the national TV for the World Cup, and he was doing something with him and Robbie Fowler. We had a great chat. You know, I get along with Scholesy. He was a great guy. So that kind of thing is fine. You know, we're not fighting each other anymore.
Sure.
We're just competitive, and that's how it should be. Just professionally competitive.
Yeah. The 2003-2004 season, a very special season for Arsenal, going unbeaten, winning the league at White Hart Lane. Another cross for you to bear. But after after you've done that, I mean, the Thierry Henry story is great, isn't it? With the Tottenham players jumping around thinking they've stopped us winning the league, and he's going, "You idiots, you haven't." But from a professional point of view, your goal for the season is to win the title, and you've achieved that goal, but you've still got 4 games to go to achieve something special and unique. Was that difficult? Because we've seen it in the past where a team has won the league and then that's it, they kind of switch off and they lose a couple of games. Those last 4 games were a bit of a slog. I mean, can you remember how physically demanding, mentally demanding they were?
You know, for me, you set out, you want to you got the team to win the league, and you're training really hard, and you start off, and you win, you lose, and when you win, you draw, and things like that. And, you know, you don't start out trying to go unbeaten for the whole season. I know Arsen said he tried to do it the season before with the team, but I don't know about that. But, you know, you don't set out to go all season and don't get beaten. You don't. No one goes out of the season like that because you think it can't be done. You know, it can't be done. You could win the league with 3 losses, maybe 4 losses, and say 4 or 5 draws. You still can win the league. So you know, that wasn't in my head. So obviously, you know, halfway through the season and maybe at 10 or 12 games left, Thierry Henry starts to chirp out. You know, he's always doing his calculator in his head and things like that. Oh, by the way, we could, blah, 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 we'll talk to the boss and we could do this. And just get on, let's just win the league, man. You know, I'm not worried about if we go unbeaten, but what an amazing achievement, because it's only now, you know, you look back and you say to yourself, what an amazing achievement, because so many teams have tried. Manchester City, look at their faces when they lost. You know, they wanted to win. Obviously, they were going to win the league, but they wanted that unbeaten. They wanted 100 points, win the league, and they wanted that unbeaten. And they were really, you know, down in the dumps.
Good.
I'm trying to. There's kids here, so I don't want to say too much.
Yeah.
But and they were like, you know, really down in the dumps. And for us, after the winning the league at Tottenham Hotspur, it was, you know, that was vindication. You know, that really was. That was.
Yeah.
It's really coming home.
All of a sudden.
But the games after that, it was difficult. But when you look at the last game, you know, we went down and thinking, oh my God, are we going to really, you know, the last hurdle?
Yeah.
But you know, the guys turned up, and Patrick obviously nets it, and game over. But what an achievement! When you look back, you realise it's an over 100-year-old record, and it was done when there was 12 teams in the league, and no one was professional then.
Yeah.
So, you know, now, you know, you look back and you say to yourself, what an achievement. It's only now, you know, I won a cup. I won the cup. I mean, Arsenal's got one, but I think they should give some of the players that cup.
Some replicas.
I want something on my mantelpiece, because that's such an amazing thing.
Some people from the club here, I'm sure they can sort that out.
Yeah, I love one. I think they should. Really, I think they should. I think, for me, they should think about that, the players who've participated in that. No, that's my little rant, but you know. I would love something like that to look back on and say, what an amazing achievement.
Yeah.
It was incredible. But
is that like the crowning achievement in your footballing career?
well, it's one of them. But when you look at it, we broke another record with Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
You know, that was over 2 seasons. That was 42 games, and we went on to 49 games. Shame we lost at Man United, but you know, we should have had. If we had VAR. No penalty.
Wenger in a yellow card.
Definitely, it was air. Where are you going? Space. But anyway, that was an incredible achievement. 49 games. Sounds better, doesn't it? And you just look back and you just say to yourself, there are things, everyone can win the league and things like that, and FA Cups are great, but going all season and beating that over a century-old record, and how many times? There's a lot of football teams, a lot of football has been played, and it's gone past 10 years now, and no one's come close, and who knows? It may last for another 100 years, it may not, who knows? But for us, it's just amazing for us.
Can I ask you, because of the quality of the team and the quality of that achievement and the players that we had and how good they were, I mean, do you ever look back and think that maybe that team could have won more and should have won more?
I think for us, I got sent off by a Man United player who dived.
Solskjaer?
Yeah, I mean, I palmed him off. I didn't elbow him off. He went down and also I'm taller than him as well. So, and I missed the last games. Missed the FA Cup, the final. Then missed the last games, and that's when you kind of realise how close you are to something, and then if results don't go your way, or say decisions doesn't go your way, like I didn't play for the last 4 games. I got banned. And that we lost the momentum, and we needed to kind of keep on pushing. I think the last game was against Leeds. And we lost, and we needed to win that game to keep it going. But it's it's life in it, football. It's life. It's in your blood. It's DNA. It's great to be around it. That's why people love it around the world.
For sure. I want to ask you a bit about what you think of what's happening now at Arsenal, because there's been a huge change. After 22 years, Arsene Wenger is no longer the man in charge, and we have a new head coach. It seems to be a whole new structure, not just a new manager. So how are you feeling about the new season? Does it make it more interesting and more exciting for you? Just because this is something different?
I think for the players, it was a shock to some of the players who've been there for a while. But it had to happen, It couldn't go on forever. Maybe Arsen wanted to go on forever, who knows? But obviously results and the situation went against him, and then obviously the board, and then reality kicks in, and then you have to compromise, and that was a compromise to kind of step aside, and they had to look for a new manager. And I think Emre's a really good guy. He'll sort out the back line. He'll be very kind of concentrated on that area, and hopefully forward wise don't suffer too much going on to the season. There's a lot of new players, new kind of dynamic in midfield. I think it's exciting. I think just hopefully, the manager needs time. I think 3 years, is ample time for him to get something going and make a real challenge. I think this year is going to be finding his feet, and hopefully he can kind of surprise everybody as well, and be consistent. And if he can get Champions League, be great. If not, certainly the following year he needs to be getting that, and I think the third year could be challenging. So I think the Arsenal fans have to give him time, and if he overachieves in the first year, the first season, that's great, that's fantastic.
What have you made of the signings that we brought in? Do you see anything missing, anything glaring that we might have missed in terms of adding to the squad?
I think for me, you've got to look at at the centre of the park. I don't know who's going to be the centrepiece. That's key for me. Who's going to be the centre piece? Who's going to control the midfield? Who's going to be the leader? in that position. Who's going to step up? You've got players there, but someone needs to step up and control that midfield and have a really, really good season. I don't know if Xhaka's going to do it. I don't know. May do. Maybe Ramsey. I'm not too sure. Ozil might kind of say, right, I've got the skill factor and I'm going to be a bit more consistent. I don't know. We need someone to take over that midfield and make it their own.
It's difficult to know at the moment, really, isn't it? Because we're not sure what kind of a formation he's going to play, what way he's going to set his team up, and we have a vague idea when we hear about all the hard work and the pressing and all that kind of stuff that's going to go on. But until we get maybe 2 or 3 months into the season,
10 games, 10 total.
Yeah, it's going to take that long, do you think?
I think it will take, I think the first bit's going to be everyone's on a bus trip and everyone's working out a new manager, I'm going to run everywhere and blah, blah, blah. But when that settles down, that's when you see who is really taking in all the information on board and who still wants to do the boring things in the game. That's the thing.
What do you mean by the boring things?
Well, get into position, get into holes, make sure you're difficult to beat. Running back, 10 yards sometimes to get into position. That's the key. When that wears off, who continually kind of get back into position and helps the team, and then go forward. The best thing is you get back in a good shape and then you go again, and you don't get bored of that. I'm just sometimes scared that some players might get bored of getting back into position because it's a boring situation. I want to be attacking. But that's not the key, because that's when really good teams who do both things will wait for those kind of 1 or 2 players to get lazy, and that's when they double up and open spaces and exploit you, and then that one opportunity comes their way and they finish you off. That's the key. So hopefully that continues and it's really tight and they do all the things that Emery wants them to do, off the ball, really.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like that could be the biggest area of improvement? Because Arsenal have got good players and skillful players, some hard-working players, real quality up front, but it's perhaps been our work off the ball that's been a bit of an issue over the last couple of seasons.
That's why I think they brought him in. The hierarchy brought him in because he really concentrates on that area of the pitch, making sure everybody, he'll be like a microscope on each player, making sure they're doing the right thing, making sure they're being in the right positions and things like that. So that's key. The only thing is to find the balance between once you're in position to be attacking. So that's the only thing for me. They find the right balance between defensive and getting some of the attacking players into defensive mode, and then switching them on to kind of, when you've got the breakaway or the counter attack, to be, have enough legs and ready and still sharp and still kind of flowing to, get a couple of goals or hurt the opposition when we've got possession.
Yeah. A couple of things before we open it up to some questions from the floor. Obviously, as a great centre half for Arsenal and England, we've got 2 young English centre halves at the club, and I think it feels to me anyway like the centre of our defence is an area that is open for somebody to come in and really stake a claim and make the position their own. What's your assessment of Rob Holding and Callum Chambers and their prospects? They're still very young, they need perhaps a little bit of development and guidance, but could they be the future of the Arsenal defence?
That's the key, guidance. I think when you have an experienced player in that position and you take along a youngster beside you in the heat of the battle, week in, week out, he learns more from that than on the pitch training. That's not the case. Almost learning on the job. It's nice to learn on the job, but you can make a lot more mistakes learning on the job. And then if you make too many mistakes, your confidence kind of gets knocked. So sometimes when you make a mistake on the pitch and you've got an experienced player around you, he can almost cover for you, and then you start to kind of learn, got away with that, he covered me, make sure that doesn't happen again. But if you're all learning on the job, you're making mistakes and you never learn. That's the thing for me. For me, I think those guys need a top centre half with them and learning off him. And that's key. That's just not the situation, so he has to kind of learn on the job. Hopefully, they've got the skill factor to kind of to go on. I think with Chambers, he has to decide where he wants to be. He's not on the left. He's not. He's too big to be left and right and centre, right back, left back.
Yeah.
He needs to be in the middle. He's had a lot of years moving around, and I understand as a youngster you do get shifted around, and I've been through there for that kind of process. But then you've got to put your foot down and say, right, this is my position. I'm going to be a connoisseur of this position, and if you're in trouble, I might do left, might do right, but if you don't want me to be there, I'd rather be in the stands and wait for my turn, and I'll work my rear end off to get in the team. And that's what needs to happen in their heads.
Does the Europa League give them a chance perhaps to play those games without some of the pressure of the Premier League? Because the group stages of the Europa League, I'm not saying they're easy, but the quality of the opposition is certainly not Premier League opposition. Is that where he might look at them and give them that chance to develop and learn on the job?
Yeah, there's for me it's building, but you only truly learn when you play against the best in your position. Yes, you can warm up to it and play those games. They still can be challenging if you're not on it. You know, you might come across a really good centre forward who's really good. You've never heard of him, and he's like giving you kind of hell on the day of the game. So you just never know. That's the beautiful thing about football. You just never know who you come against in these games. But he needs to kind of play in the big games. That's when you really, really learn who you are as a footballer, where you stand in the pecking order, things like that. And so sometimes it happens that maybe an injury comes along and then you get your spot. That's when you have to take it and don't look back. Don't look back and say, oh, I'm only in there for one game. Boom, I'm here. Make that a good game and give the thought into the manager's head, I'm here. I'm ready. I can cope in these big games. Look at me. That's what they've got to do. That's what they need to do. And those big games, when your opportunity does come, it will come in the season that someone gets injured and they get in. That's when you got to make it count. Get the balls by a hole and don't let go.
Yeah. Mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final one, just before we get some questions. The issue of the captaincy is one which I think a lot of Arsenal fans are interested in, and who is going to be the club captain or the team's captain this season. Unai Emery's spoken about having 5 captains, where he wants, I guess, this kind of collective leadership, a leadership group, perhaps you might say, the experienced players. What's your view on that, and who are the candidates for you to lead the team?
5 captains is that's like a club pool, things like that. You know, when you sort it out, where you go for a club dinner or things like that. You know, there's too many people at the party. You know, it's unbelievable. For me, quite easy. I used to see this at different clubs, and I used to see it growing up. And managers can get it wrong. For me, the easiest way is you find a club captain, and then you find a team captain, and then obviously a vice captain from there. And the team captain is usually the guy who's been there the longest. And if he's not playing all the time, but when he's playing, he's captain. And it's done, it's settled. One of the guys who, if there's 4 or 5 guys who've been there the longest, you know, you pick the one who's been captain, or who wants it, or seems kind of up for it to be the team captain. Club captain. So when he plays, you know, he may be coming back to his end of his career or whatever, or just come back from injury, not playing all the time, who knows. But when he plays, he's captain. Then, you know, you've got the club captain, then you've got the team captain. So if the club captain's not playing, you give it to the team captain, he's captain, he could be captain for 60-70% of the time. But then if the team captain comes on, like last, I don't know, 20 minutes or whatever, you give the armband to him, and he's done. And then you obviously got the vice captain. Simple. And then everybody knows your thought pattern and how you got to that decision. And it's fair. You know, Arsen back in the days, you know, letting Gilberto know by internet he's not club captain, and gave it to William Gallas. You know, I know both of the guys, but I just think that was horribly kind of dealt with. You know, Gilberto's a classy guy, proper captain, World Cup winner. You know, he's a proper Arsenal player, true through and through, gentleman, and that's what you do. It's like, for me, that's the easiest way, and everybody in the squad knows your thought pattern and how you got to that decision.
So you're looking at maybe Lauren Koscielny as the club captain, and the guy who's going to play when he's not there, somebody who's going to play regularly?
Yeah.
Aaron Ramsey?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Would Aaron Ramsey's contract situation be a consideration for you? If he's
sometimes you've got, managers thinking, giving the captaincy, he might sign it, or don't give him the captaincy because he don't deserve it. I think for me, you got to separate the captain from the contracts. And just, I think Aaron Ramsey is, he's one of the guys I feel that could easily be a team captain. And then I think Kishore could be a club captain. And then someone else could be, I don't know, who else could be the vice captain. And it's simple, it's done, it's easy, and people understand it. Players want it easy, just easy format, they understand the kind of how it works. I mean, 5 captains, I think, I don't know, it's a bit weird for me.
Too many cooks spoil the broth?
Well, no, for me, I don't think you need 5 captains. Do you need 5 captains? I don't know. I think you just need 2 or 3, and if someone's injured, that person might be captain for 3-4 games. I think I like to keep things simple. Yeah.
Okay. So just finally, would top 4 be a successful season for Arsenal this time around with a new boss?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think for sure. I think to get top 4 is a fantastic season.
Right.
It's definitely something to build on. That's what I'm saying. I think he's got a lot of players. I think hopefully will surprise a lot of people in the league. With the energy and the organisation, and I think different rhetoric in the change rooms will definitely help players. And everybody comes with everybody new manager comes with their own luck, and their own destiny. And hopefully he gets the right blend. Hopefully gets the response he needs out of the players, and the players respond to him, and the team spirit it seems to be going pretty well with the team spirit as well. It's nice to see, and long may it continue. And then they start working together, get the players back from the latter stage of the World Cup as well, and everyone starts gelling together and finding their feet and playing together and knowing the strengths and weaknesses of each individual, and then that's what it's all about, So hopefully. If he gets top 4, it's a wonderful season.
All right. Well, we'll keep fingers crossed for that at least. We're going to take a few questions from the floor. So if you do have a question, stick your hand up, and I can. Young man here.
Yeah. When you first went back to play against that small club in Middlesex, how did such hostile atmosphere affect you?
I think for me, going back the second time round, you almost say to yourself, it's you're older, not that old, but you're older. You're wiser. Hopefully, you are a little bit more wiser. And you kind of say to yourself, you realise how tribal football is. You really do realise how tribal football is, and. But again, I enjoyed that kind of tussle. I'm from East London, Plaistow, of street footballer. I'm not saying I need that to kind of play football. People, baiting me and saying everything under the sun against me for me to kind of wake up and play football. I don't really need that. No one needs that. But you get on with it. But then you have to kind of make sure you're dignified in your own way, and whatever the result is, you just got to kind of maintain consistency and understand, you're trying to win for your team. But at the end of the day, you've got people who are saying everything under the sun against you, and you've got to really maintain and block it out. And that's how I used to do it, but it's difficult. It gets easier when you get older, I think. I think it used to be different when I was 25, 26. But then second time round, when you're 30 odd, you've got a lot more experience in life. And you kind of, by then I had my first, married by then, with my girlfriend and family are growing up, and different things in your life has come into you, and you just look at life in a totally different way, and you have to. Football is a great thing, and football is my life, and I enjoyed my time, and I'd love to get back into football. But you have to kind of balance it out between what is being said at a stadium and what is happening in the real world. And you have to look at things, and you look at the real world. I know football's a little bit of a bubble, but in the real world, there's a lot of things happening out there which kind of counterbalances that.
Yeah. Question here?
Yeah, so I'm a fan that's been going for many, many years, and one of the things I really enjoy is the humour side. As fans, football humour is very unique. It really is. Now, I remember the day you signed. It's a bit like my parents saying they remember where they were when the first man stepped on the moon and stuff like that.
Is it that big?
It's that big. Bigger, so bigger. But I was in Scotland on holiday, waiting to get on a ferry, and I received a phone call, and it was a friend watching you walk into the press conference the day you signed, and he literally was speechless and said, "Sol Campbell's in the room." That was how quiet it was. Now, when he said Sol Campbell signed for Arsenal, Sol Campbell signed for Arsenal, I got off the phone and I was in tears of laughter. I could not stop laughing. And that's what I mean about football humour. Now, the reason, obviously, we were laughing so much was you were captain of our biggest rivals.
What were the biggest rivals there, were they? London rivals, and that's about it. He really knows how to work a crowd. It's true, to be honest.
Can I say rivals location-wise?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, it was the laughter. I got phone calls and things coming in from everybody, all the mates saying, "Can you believe this is happening?" And it was funny above all else. You were captain of Tottenham. You walked down the road. We paid nothing for you, other than your contract, of course, but we paid nothing for you, and you were coming to Arsenal. And that's what stands in my mind more than anything else. So my question is, the link between you as a player and your colleagues as players, your teammates as players, and football humour, were you aware of that? Were you aware as a person of how funny it was, the situation?
Well, I don't know about funny. I think some of it was kind of nasty as well. So I think because there was, on both sides there were obviously people. Every story has two sides. One side maybe laughing, the other side maybe crying. The eyes out, and one side maybe saying, "Oh, what a great job," and everyone will be cursing, everything under the sun. So I think for me, it's the English or British football humour is unique around the world, and I get it. I get all that. Now it's on a different level with social media, things like that. Some of it's good, some of it's really bad. But yeah, I get it. That's what's football all about. That's how people talk in the pubs and things like that. I think that keeps football going. Well, you don't need my type of moves to keep football going, but it's the banter. It's the banter, which is quite unique to British people.
Have we got another one? Yeah, lady here.
Hiya.
Hello.
Just regarding the last person there, coming from Spurs to Arsenal would have been a big thing, right? But you spoke earlier on about getting taken onto the wing of an experienced player. Was there anybody in the Arsenal team at that time that inspired you or that showed you any?
Well, there wasn't inspiring me. I think for me it was a number of players and how they. But for instance, I remember. I was playing. Obviously, got to the club, and it was a week before the first return back to White Hart Lane for me. And I remember, Dennis and Patrick Vieira, they would be kind of joking about it. Almost kind of reverse psychology in a humorous kind of way. And it was quite nice because it kind of diffused the whole. Yes, we know I know exactly what I had in front of me once I stepped out there, but it wasn't in training. It was actually in the warm-up room and in the weights room, and we were stretching, and it was reverse kind of psychology. And it was quite nice in the sense that instead of kind of stating the obvious, it was kind of let's kind of change it around and change tact, and it kind of worked. So it was kind of that all the players were kind of involved and in their own little way and understood what that game kind of meant to me, and the passion of the players was just incredible. When I was in that team, you just felt you could go to war with those guys. You know, at that particular game I had Martin Keown, I know he's half Irish as well. So I had a half Irish guy next to me, and he was like a warrior. You know, Martin Keown was like a warrior. But the thing is that in the game, I just felt that camaraderie and that togetherness. We're in a battle, and I took comfort with that. They were my friends, and they were my kind of comrades in this game, and I felt so secure with those players around me that I knew I can go out, do my stuff, but I knew those guys would do their stuff at the same time as well, and that was an incredible feeling that you very rarely have. Yes, it was a special occasion. Yes, there was biblical things written on the banners and things like that. Some of them were contradicting themselves anyway, but it was just an incredible feeling, and that's what I took comfort in. That kind of everybody in there and ready to battle. It was an incredible feeling. I'll never forget it.
We got time for one more, so maybe one down the back, gentleman there.
When you went back to White Hart Lane for the first game,
There's too many White Hart Lane kind of. Come on, can we move on? Anything else, please, please? Anything else? Something else? No, I'll answer you. Go on.
in your first real tackle, you used to play Teddy Sheringham.
I thought I took two people. Did I take Teddy Sheringham left Ferdinand? But yeah, someone said I'll try to do him. I said no, I was just looking for the ball.
Yeah,
of course. Always a ball.
What makes that moment you broke the camel's back? Just that moment, you got that. They bounced off you like 2 5-year-olds. We're all going mad. They were all cussing you.
It's one of the memorable tackles. But one guy kind of was alright. The other guy is actually my friend, but I was just looking at the ball. But for some reason there was 2 Tottenham players there. And I actually didn't know it was them 2. I was just looking at the ball and said, I've got to win this tackle.
Yeah.
It was an amazing game, I'll tell you now. It was like, I've never been in a game like that. I don't know if anyone watched the game live, but you're not really having those type of games again. They do not exist.
Well,
there's thank God they don't exist, but that intensity in a game, you don't get that anymore.
Don't get those kind of transfers. That's the thing. We're going to have one more question that's not about Sol's return to White Hart Lane, if that's all right.
Please.
Gentleman here with the red hat on. Red hat.
What do we need, if anything, for this season, and what do you predict for our
I think we need consistency. That's what we definitely need as a team. Away from home, that consistency. Burnley. You played on a Sunday, you got them on a Wednesday, it's peeing down rain, it's at their home, that's when I want to see the players turn up and win that type of game. That's when I know Arsenal are really back in business, when they've had that type of game, got through it, and they've won, and I can say, wow, this is what it's all about. I need to see that. I've not seen that for a long, long time. I've seen when it's sunny, it's nice at the Emirates, and you've got wide pitch, and you're passing the team to death, things like that. It's almost like a matador kind of thing. But it's at home, away, that's when I want to see who you really are. And that's what I think most Arsenal fans want to see. The away form kind of really pick up. You're not going to win all the time, but you just want to be really hard to kind of beat, and on the road, pick those points up. And then you add those points up throughout the season, then you start jumping spaces, and that's what it's all about. Those little draws there, or wins away from home, all add up. Yes, they all add up, but instead of kind of just throwing in the towel and it's 1-1 and then they nick a goal 2-1, things like that kind of stuff, where you're winning 1-0 and they nick a goal for 1-1, that kind of thing. I want away form to change, and the mentality has to change away from home and be really tough to kind of beat and pick some points up. That has to change. I think that, not players, I think fundamentally the mentality has to change.
All right.
We need the SOL Campbell.
Yes. We need the SOL Campbell.
How are the knees?
I'm gonna jump into that Peter Pan pool and take 20 years off and come back again.
Do it. We'd love that. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have any more time for questions, unfortunately, but thank you for coming out. SOL Campbell, everyone.
Thank you.